Ji-hoon wiped the grease from his hands and stared at the broken machine in front of him. The life support system was old, maybe 30 years past its expected life. But here on Trading Post Epsilon 7, everything was old. Nobody cared as long as it worked. He picked up his wrench and got back to work. The metal parts were hot, and sweat dripped down his face. The air in the repair bay was thick and smelled like oil and burned circuits. Just another day for a human engineer at the edge of known space. "You use such primitive tools." Ji-hoon looked up. A woman stood in the doorway of his workshop. She was tall, maybe 7 feet. Her skin had a slight blue tint that caught the light. Her eyes were golden, like liquid metal. She wore armor that looked both beautiful and deadly. She was Velathi. Ji-hoon had seen a few of them on the station before. They were warriors, traders, and explorers. Most species gave them respect. Some gave them fear. "These primitive tools work just fine," Ji-hoon said. He turned back to his work. "Can I help you with something?" The woman walked closer. Her boots made heavy sounds on the metal floor. "I have equipment that needs checking. I was told you are the one who fixes things here." "I fix what I can," Ji-hoon said. He tightened a bolt and tested the connection. "What kind of equipment?" "My ship's navigation system makes strange sounds." Ji-hoon smiled. "Strange sounds? That's not very specific." The woman tilted her head. Her golden eyes studied him with interest. "You are not afraid of me. Should I be? Most species show fear when they meet Velathi." Ji-hoon shrugged. "I've seen scary things before. A broken life support system when you're 3 days from the nearest station? That's scary. A customer asking for help? Not so much." The woman laughed. It was a rich, warm sound. "I am Lyra. And you are?" "Ji-hoon Kim, Lieutenant, but I don't use the title much out here." He stood up and wiped his hands again. "Show me your ship. Let's see what's making those strange sounds." They walked through the station together. Lyra moved with confidence, like someone who owned every space she entered. Other aliens moved out of her way. Some nodded with respect. Others just stared. Ji-hoon noticed, but didn't comment. He was used to being the smallest person in any room. Humans were not the biggest, not the strongest, not the fastest, but they were good at solving problems. That was enough. Lyra's ship was beautiful. It was sleek and silver with curves that looked almost alive. The design was nothing like human ships, which were built for function over form. "Nice ship," Ji-hoon said. "It has served me well for many years." Lyra opened the hatch. "The sound comes from the control panel." Ji-hoon climbed inside. The interior was just as impressive as the exterior. Everything was polished and clean. He found the navigation panel and opened it carefully. "How long have you heard this sound?" he asked. 3 days. It started after I left the Corthan system." Ji-hoon pulled out a small scanning device from his belt. He ran it over the circuits. Numbers and readings appeared on the tiny screen. Is it serious?" "No. Just a loose connection in the cooling system. The sound is the circuit trying to regulate temperature." He reached in with a magnetic tool and adjusted a small component. "There, try it now." Lyra pressed a button. The panel lit up smoothly. No sound, no vibration, just quiet operation. "That's it?" she asked. "That's it. Sometimes the simplest problems sound the worst." Ji-hoon closed the panel. "Your ship is good to go." Lyra stared at him. "You fixed it in less than 2 minutes." "Like I said, simple problem." Ji-hoon packed his tools. "No charge for something that easy. Consider it a welcome to the station." "You are strange, little human." "Little?" Ji-hoon grinned. "You're not the first person to mention my height. Probably won't be the last." "I did not mean offense. You move quickly like a small bird. Very efficient." "I'll take that as a compliment." Over the next few weeks, Lyra came to Ji-hoon's workshop often. Sometimes she had equipment to repair. Sometimes she just stopped by to talk. She asked him many questions about humans, about Earth, about his work. Ji-hoon found himself looking forward to her visits. She was easy to talk to, despite the differences between them. She had a sharp sense of humor and didn't treat him like he was fragile or stupid. One day, she brought him a drink from her homeworld. It was thick and purple and tasted like spiced honey. "This is good," Ji-hoon said, taking another sip. "It is given to warriors after a successful mission." Lyra sat on his workbench, her long legs swinging slightly. "You remind me of warriors from my world." "Me? I'm an engineer, not a warrior." "You face challenges without fear. You solve problems others cannot. That is a kind of warrior." Ji-hoon laughed. "That's generous of you to say. I do not say things I do not mean." Other people on the station started to notice. Hyun, another human engineer, pulled Ji-hoon aside one evening. "You know that Valathi woman is here a lot," Hyun said. "Lyra? Yeah, she's friendly." "Friendly," Hyun raised his eyebrows. "Brother, she's not just friendly. She's interested." "Interested in my repair skills, maybe." "You're either blind or stupid." Hyun shook his head. "Everyone on the station is talking about it. A Valathi warrior spending time with a human? That doesn't happen." "We're just friends," Ji-hoon said. "Keep telling yourself that." But Ji-hoon did start to notice things. The way Lyra smiled when she saw him. The way she leaned closer when they talked. The way she touched his shoulder when she laughed at his jokes. He told himself not to read too much into it. Humans and Valathi were different. Too different. She was probably just curious about his species. Nothing more. One evening, Lyra found him working late. The station was quiet, with most people asleep or in their quarters. "You work too much, little sparrow," she said. Ji-hoon looked up from his repair work. "Little sparrow? That's a new one." "It suits you. Small, quick, always busy." She walked around his workshop, examining his tools. "Do you ever rest?" "I rest when the work is done." "And when is the work ever done?" "Good point." Ji-hoon set down his tools. "What brings you here so late?" "I wanted to see you." Something in her voice made Ji-hoon's heart beat faster. The way she said it was different from her usual teasing tone. "Is something wrong?" he asked. "No, everything is right." She moved closer. "I enjoy our time together, Ji-hoon, more than I have enjoyed anything in a long time." "I enjoy it too." "Good," she smiled. "Then we will continue. Tomorrow I will bring you food from my ship. You will eat properly for once." Before Ji-hoon could respond, she left. He stood there in his workshop, surrounded by tools and broken machines, wondering what exactly was happening between them. He told himself it was just friendship. Cross-species friendship was common in the galaxy. Nothing unusual about it. But deep down, a small voice whispered that maybe Hyun was right. Maybe something more was growing here. Something unexpected. Something that both excited and terrified him. The alarm woke Ji-hoon from a deep sleep. Red lights flashed in his quarters. The station's emergency system was screaming warnings through the speakers. He pulled on his clothes and ran into the corridor. Other residents were emerging from their rooms, confused and worried. Ji-hoon headed straight for the main plaza. The plaza was the heart of the trading post. It was a large open area where different species met to trade, eat, and socialize. Right now it was full of angry voices and the sound of weapons being charged. Two groups faced each other across the plaza floor. On one side were the Korthan traders, reptilian beings with gray scales and sharp teeth. On the other side were Phoenix merchants, tall and thin with silver fur. Between them stood Station Commander Wells, a tired-looking human woman who ran Epsilon 7. She was trying to calm everyone down. It wasn't working. "They stole our shipment," shouted a Korthan trader. "We paid for those goods fairly." A Phoenix merchant yelled back. You paid with false credits. The credits were verified. Weapons were out now. Energy rifles glowed in the dim light. Ji-hoon saw Lyra standing near the edge of the plaza, watching with interest but not interfering. This wasn't her fight. Commander Wells held up her hands. Everyone calm down. We can verify the transaction records and— No more talking! The Korthan leader raised his weapon. We take back what is ours! Ji-hoon didn't think. He just moved. He stepped into the space between the two groups. Stop, he said loudly. Everyone turned to look at him. A small human engineer, standing between two groups of armed aliens. It must have looked ridiculous. Who are you to interfere? The Korthan leader demanded. Someone who doesn't want to see this station destroyed over a misunderstanding. Ji-hoon kept his voice calm. Because that's what this is, a misunderstanding. You know nothing of this matter, human. I know about trading systems, I know about credit verification, and I know that someone is playing both of you for fools. That got their attention. The Phoenix merchant lowered his weapon slightly. Explain. Ji-hoon pulled out his portable computer. His hands were shaking, but he kept his voice steady. Commander Wells, can you access the transaction records from the past week? Wells nodded and sent the data to his device. Ji-hoon studied it quickly, his engineer's mind scanning for patterns. There, he said, pointing at his screen. 3 days ago, someone accessed both your accounts. They created duplicate transactions. The Korthan think they were robbed because their shipment was marked as delivered to the wrong location. The Phoenix think they paid fairly because their account shows a completed purchase, but neither transaction was real. How is that possible? Asked the Phoenix merchant. Someone hacked the station's trading system. They wanted you to fight each other. Ji-hoon showed them the evidence. Look at the access codes. These aren't standard user codes. Someone from outside the station did this. The Korthan leader studied the data. His angry expression slowly changed to confusion, then understanding. But why? To create chaos, said a new voice. Everyone turned. Lyra stepped forward from the shadows. While you fight each other, your ships sit unguarded. Your cargo holds are vulnerable. Someone planned to rob you both while you killed each other. Commander Wells checked her security monitors. Her face went pale. She's right. There's an unregistered ship docking at Bay 7 right now. Security teams rushed to Bay 7. They caught 3 pirates trying to break into cargo holds. The crisis was over. The Korthan and Phoenix groups lowered their weapons. They looked embarrassed now, angry at being manipulated. The Korthan leader approached Ji-hoon. You have courage, human, to step between armed warriors when you carry no weapons yourself. I just didn't want anyone to get hurt over a lie. Still, you showed bravery. The Korthan bowed slightly. I will remember this. After the plaza cleared, Lyra found Ji-hoon sitting on a bench, his hands still shaking from the adrenaline. That was foolish, she said. Probably. Also brave. She sat beside him. You could have been killed. I couldn't just watch. Ji-hoon looked at his trembling hands. Is it normal to feel this scared after doing something brave? Yes. Fear comes after the danger passes. During danger, you act. Lyra studied him with those golden eyes. You are interesting, Ji-hoon Kim. Interesting how? Come to the training hall tomorrow. I want to see something. The next day, Ji-hoon met Lyra in the station's training area. It was a large room with padded floors and various exercise equipment. A few other station residents were there, working out. Lyra wore light training clothes. She looked even taller and more powerful without her armor. We will spar, she announced. Ji-hoon blinked. Spar? You mean fight? A friendly match. I want to see how you move. Lyra, you're a trained warrior. I'm an engineer. This won't be much of a match. Humor me. Ji-hoon sighed and stepped onto the training mat. Other people in the gym stopped to watch. A human sparring with a Velothi? This would be worth seeing. They faced each other. Lyra was relaxed, confident. Ji-hoon tried to remember the basic self-defense training all military personnel received. "Begin," Lyra said. She moved fast, incredibly fast. Ji-hoon barely dodged her first strike. He stumbled backward, off balance, but he didn't give up. He watched her movements, looking for patterns. Lyra was stronger and faster, but she fought with a specific style. She attacked with power, expecting to overwhelm her opponent quickly. Ji-hoon changed his strategy. He stopped trying to match her strength. Instead, he focused on not being where she expected him to be. He ducked, dodged, and moved constantly. The other watchers started murmuring in surprise. The human was lasting longer than they expected. Lyra increased her speed. Ji-hoon kept moving. He used the whole training mat, never staying in one place. When she pressed forward, he circled. When she expected him to retreat, he moved sideways. He saw an opening. It was small and wouldn't last. Lyra had overextended slightly on her last strike. Ji-hoon moved in fast and tapped her shoulder with his hand. A touch, a single point scored. The watching crowd went silent. Lyra stopped. She stared at the spot where he had touched her shoulder. Then she started laughing. "How long has it been since someone scored on you?" asked a Velothi male watching from the side. "Years," Lyra said. She looked at Ji-hoon with something like wonder. "Many years." Ji-hoon was breathing hard, sweat running down his face. "I got lucky." "No. You were clever. You used your weakness as a strength. You are smaller and weaker, so you did not try to match me in power. You adapted." She circled him slowly. "This is what humans do best, yes? You adapt. We try to. I have sparred with the best warriors across many worlds. Most try to match my strength and fail. You did something different." She smiled. "I want to spar with you again, many times." After the match, they sat together in the station's observation deck. It was Ji-hoon's favorite quiet spot, with a large window showing the stars outside. "Can I ask you something?" Ji-hoon said. "Always. Why are you spending so much time with me? I'm just an engineer. You're clearly someone important among your people." Lyra was quiet for a moment. "What do your people value in their partners?" The question surprised him. "Partners? You mean like romantic partners?" "Yes. I guess kindness, intelligence, someone who makes you laugh, someone brave enough to be honest with you." Ji-hoon shrugged. "Why do you ask?" "Curiosity about human culture." Lyra looked out at the stars. "Velothi value different things. We value courage, honor, and strength of spirit. Not just physical strength, the strength to do what is right, even when afraid. That makes sense for a warrior culture. You showed such strength today, both in the plaza and in our match." Ji-hoon felt his face getting warm. "I was terrified both times. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite fear." Lyra stood up. "I should let you rest. You have work tomorrow." After she left, Ji-hoon sat alone in the observation deck for a long time. Hyun's words came back to him. Everyone on the station was talking about him and Lyra. Maybe his friend was right. Maybe this was becoming something more than friendship. The thought both excited and worried him. What could a human and a Velothi possibly have together? They were too different. But when he remembered the way she looked at him after their match, the way she smiled when they talked, he wondered if maybe differences didn't matter as much as he thought. The distress call came during breakfast. Ji-hoon was eating with Hyun in the station cafeteria when the emergency broadcast interrupted every screen and speaker. "This is Merchant Vessel Distant Star. Our engines are dead. We're drifting toward the Razorfield asteroid belt. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need help." The Razorfield was notorious. Thousands of asteroids spinning in chaotic patterns, many with sharp metal fragments that could cut through ship hulls. Any vessel that drifted into it would be destroyed in minutes. Commander Wells's voice came over the station intercom. "We need volunteers for a rescue mission. This is dangerous. The asteroids are moving fast and the rescue window is small." Ji-hoon stood up immediately. "Don't," Hyun said. "You're an engineer, not a pilot. They'll need someone who can fix their engines. That's me. Ji-hoon, be smart about this." But Ji-hoon was already walking to the docking bay. When he arrived, he found Commander Wells organizing the rescue team. A few station personnel had volunteered, mostly security staff and pilots. "I'm going too," Ji-hoon said. Wells looked at him. "Can you handle zero-gravity repairs?" "Yes, ma'am." "Good. We need someone with engineering skills." She turned to brief everyone. "We have 30 minutes before the distant star enters the asteroid field. That's our window." "I'm coming as well." Everyone turned. Lyra walked into the docking bay, already wearing a spacesuit. "This isn't your concern, Lyra," Wells said. "Ji-hoon is going. That makes it my concern." Lyra's tone left no room for argument. Wells sighed. "Fine, but you follow my orders on this mission." They boarded a fast rescue shuttle. Ji-hoon sat next to Lyra as the pilot launched them into space. Through the window, he could see the distant star in the distance, a small ship tumbling slowly toward the asteroid field. "You didn't have to come," Ji-hoon said quietly. "Yes, I did." "Why?" Lyra looked at him with those golden eyes. "Because you are reckless and brave, and someone needs to make sure you survive." The shuttle approached the distant star carefully. The merchant ship was dark, lifeless. Its crew of 4 huddled in the emergency shelter, watching their rescuers approach. "Ji-hoon, you're up," Wells said. "We need those engines working in 15 minutes." Ji-hoon put on his helmet and prepared to spacewalk to the other ship. Lyra was right behind him. "I'm coming with you," she said. "You don't have to." "We waste time arguing." "Move." They crossed the gap between ships using safety tethers. Space was silent except for Ji-hoon's breathing inside his helmet. He could see the asteroid field ahead, growing closer every second. Inside the distant star, Ji-hoon found the engine room. It was a mess. A power surge had fried half the circuits. He got to work immediately, his hands moving fast despite the bulky gloves. Lyra held tools for him and provided light with her helmet lamp. She didn't speak, didn't distract him. She just helped. "This circuit is completely dead," Ji-hoon muttered. "I need to bypass it." "Can you do that in time?" "I have to." His hands worked steadily, connecting wires and replacing components. Sweat dripped into his eyes inside the helmet. The temperature was rising. The life support in his suit struggled to keep up. "5 minutes left," Wells's voice crackled in his helmet radio. "Almost there." Ji-hoon connected the last wire and activated the bypass. The engines hummed to life. Weak, but running. "Got it! Tell them to fire thrusters now!" The distant star shuddered as its engines engaged. It began to pull away from the asteroid field, slowly at first, then faster. "Good work, Ji-hoon," Wells said. "Get back to the shuttle." Ji-hoon and Lyra moved back toward the airlock. That's when everything went wrong. An asteroid, small and fast, struck the distant star's hull. The impact wasn't enough to destroy the ship, but it sent debris flying. A piece of metal hit the rescue shuttle. "We're hit!" the pilot shouted. "Fuel line breach! We can't maintain position!" The shuttle started drifting away. Ji-hoon watched it get farther and farther from them. "Jump!" Wells ordered. "Both of you, jump now!" Ji-hoon looked at the distance. It was too far. They would never make it. "We need another option," he said, forcing his voice to stay calm. Lyra grabbed his arm. "The distant star has an emergency pod. Small, but it holds 2 people. Can it reach the station? If we launch it correctly, yes." They ran back inside the distant star. Ji-hoon's mind raced through calculations. Trajectory, fuel, life support. The emergency pod was old, barely maintained. It might not work at all. "This is insane," he said. Do you have a better plan? No. They climbed into the pod. It was tiny, barely big enough for two people. Ji-hoon's shoulder pressed against Lyra's as he programmed the navigation computer. Hold on, he said. The pod launched. It shook violently as it separated from the distant star. Ji-hoon watched the fuel gauge drop rapidly. Too rapidly. We're losing fuel, he said. Will we make it to the station? I don't know. They flew through space in the tiny pod. Stars surrounded them on all sides. The station was a distant point of light ahead. The fuel ran out halfway there. No, 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 Ji-hoon whispered. He tried everything, every trick he knew, but the engines were dead. They were drifting in space, slowly losing momentum. Lyra was silent beside him. Then she started laughing. This is funny to you? Ji-hoon asked. We might die in this tiny metal box, and I cannot think of anyone I would rather be with. Ji-hoon looked at her. You're serious. Very serious. Lyra's expression softened. Do you know what Velati warriors value most? You mentioned it before. Courage and honor. Yes, but there is more. She turned to face him fully in the cramped space. We bond with those who prove themselves worthy, not through physical strength alone, but through strength of character, through the courage to face danger, through the wisdom to find solutions others cannot see. Lyra, I have been watching you, Ji-hoon Kim, testing you. Every conversation, every shared moment. I wanted to see who you truly are. And what did you see? Someone brave, someone clever, someone who makes me laugh, someone who treats me as an equal, not as a superior or a threat. She touched his helmet gently. Someone worthy. Ji-hoon's heart pounded. Worthy of what? Among my people, when a warrior finds someone worthy, they begin the bonding ritual. It is our way of choosing a life partner. A life partner? Ji-hoon could barely breathe. You mean like marriage? Similar, but permanent, unbreakable. Lyra, I'm human. You're Velati. We're completely different species. Does that matter? Doesn't it? Not to me. Lyra's golden eyes held his. Does it matter to you? Before Ji-hoon could answer, his radio crackled to life. Emergency pod. This is Station Epsilon 7. We're sending a recovery ship. Hold your position. We're not going anywhere, Ji-hoon said with relief. The recovery ship found them 20 minutes later. By the time they returned to the station, the distant star and its crew were safe, and the rescue shuttle had been repaired. Commander Wells met them in the docking bay. That was too close. Both of you could have died. But we didn't, Lyra said. That night, Ji-hoon couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what Lyra had said in the pod, about bonding, about finding someone worthy. He went to the observation deck again. He wasn't surprised to find Lyra already there, looking out at the stars. Can't sleep? She asked. Too much on my mind. The mission? What you said, about bonding. Lyra smiled slightly. I meant every word. I need to understand this. What does it mean exactly? It means I have chosen you. Among all beings in the galaxy, I choose you. When a Velati makes this choice, we declare it publicly. We make our intentions known. And if I don't feel the same way, then I will respect your choice, but I will not lie about my own feelings. Lyra moved closer. I know this is sudden for you. Humans court differently, yes? You take your time, you date, you test compatibility slowly. Usually, yes. I can wait. I can give you time to understand your own heart, but I will not hide what I feel. That is not the Velati way. Ji-hoon looked at her, really looked at her. This powerful warrior who could defeat most beings in combat. This woman who laughed at his jokes and helped him repair engines and followed him into danger without hesitation. I don't know what I feel yet, he admitted, but I know I care about you, more than I probably should. That is enough for now. Lyra smiled. Time will reveal the rest. She left him alone with his thoughts and the stars. The Velothi warship arrived without warning. It was massive, 10 times larger than the trading post. Its dark hull reflected the starlight like polished stone. Ji-hoon was in his workshop when Hyun burst through the door. "There's a Velothi commander here," Hyun said, breathing hard. "He's asking about Lyra, and about you." Ji-hoon's stomach dropped. "About me?" "Everyone's talking. This is serious, brother." They hurried to the main plaza. A crowd had gathered. At the center stood a Velothi male in formal military armor. He was even taller than Lyra, with scars across his face that spoke of many battles. Lyra stood near him, her expression calm but her posture tense. "Commander Takrin," Lyra said. "I did not expect you." "Clearly." Commander Takrin's voice was deep and hard. "Your family sent me to find you. You have been away for 6 months. You stopped sending regular reports. They worry." "I am fine, as you can see." "Are you?" Takrin's golden eyes swept the plaza and landed on Ji-hoon. "I hear disturbing rumors. They say you spend your time with a human. This human." Every eye in the plaza turned to Ji-hoon. He felt his face grow hot, but forced himself to stand straight. "Ji-hoon Kim is my friend," Lyra said. "A friend." Takrin walked toward Ji-hoon slowly. "Do you know who she is, human? Do you know what family she comes from?" "I know she's a warrior," Ji-hoon said, "and a good person." "A good person." Takrin laughed, but it wasn't a kind sound. "She is Lyra of House Tor, daughter of Lord Commander Vex Tor, champion of the Velothi Empire. She is one of our finest warriors. And you? What are you?" "An engineer." "An engineer," Takrin repeated mockingly. "A small, weak creature from a species barely capable of space travel. What could you possibly offer someone like her?" Ji-hoon felt anger rising in his chest. "I don't claim to offer anything. We're friends. That's all." "Takrin, that is enough," Lyra said sharply. "No, it is not enough." Takrin turned back to her. "You have displayed your achievements publicly on this station. You have shown your warrior marks. You have engaged in the traditional contests. Everyone who knows Velothi custom recognizes what you are doing." The crowd murmured. Other Velothi on the station nodded slowly. "You are conducting a bonding ritual," Takrin said. "For a human, this is unacceptable." "It is my choice," Lyra said. "A choice that dishonors your family. Your father sent me to bring you home before you make this mistake permanent." "My father does not control my bonding choice. No one does. That is our law." "Law, yes. But you insult your lineage. You are from one of the most powerful families in the Empire." Takrin pointed at Ji-hoon. "And you would bond with this? A being that will die in less than a century? A weakling who cannot even defend himself properly?" "I can defend myself just fine," Ji-hoon said quietly. "Can you?" Takrin pulled out a training weapon. "Prove it. Face me now." "Takrin, no." Lyra moved between them. "Step aside, Lyra. If this human claims to be worthy of your attention, let him prove it. Or let him admit his weakness and end this foolishness." Ji-hoon's hands were shaking, but not from fear, from anger. He was tired of being dismissed, tired of being called weak, tired of being treated like he was nothing. "I won't fight you," Ji-hoon said, "because you are afraid. No, because fighting you accomplishes nothing. You want me to fail so you can prove your point. But here's the thing, Commander, you're looking at this all wrong." "Explain." Takrin's voice was cold. Ji-hoon stepped forward. The crowd pressed closer to hear him. "You measure worth by physical strength, by how long someone lives, by combat ability. And by those measures, yes, humans are weaker than Velothi. We're weaker than most species in the galaxy." Then you admit your inferiority.
No, I admit we're different.
Jihoon's voice grew stronger.
Humans have been in space for less than 200 years. Most species took thousands of years to reach the stars. We did it faster, not because we're stronger, because we adapt, we learn, we solve problems.
Pretty words, Takrin said. They're true words. Your ship out there?
I guarantee it has technology developed from human innovations. Faster than light communication? Humans contributed to that. Advanced medical techniques? Humans pioneered dozens of them. Artificial gravity systems? A human engineer redesigned the core stabilizers that every species now uses. The crowd was listening now. Really listening.
We don't live as long as Velathi, Jihoon continued, but we use our time well. We don't have your natural strength, so we built tools and machines that make us strong. We can't survive in as many environments, so we created technology that lets us thrive anywhere. We took our weaknesses and turned them into different kinds of strength.
I'm not finished.
Jihoon's voice cut through the plaza. You say I'm not worthy of Lyra's attention because I'm human.
But Lyra didn't choose me because of my species. She chose me because of who I am. Because I face challenges without running. Because I solve problems instead of just fighting them. Because I treat her with respect, as an equal, not as someone above or below me.
He looked at Lyra. She was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read.
Maybe that's not enough for you, Commander. Maybe that's not enough for her family. But it's who I am. And I won't apologize for being human.
The plaza was silent. Takrin stared at Jihoon with an unreadable expression. Then Lyra laughed. It was a joyful, triumphant sound. She walked past Takrin and stood directly in front of Jihoon. The playfulness that usually filled her eyes was gone. In its place was something fierce and certain.
You ask what he offers me? Lyra said, speaking to Takrin but looking at Jihoon. He offers honesty, courage, intelligence, a spirit that refuses to break. He makes me laugh. He challenges me. He sees me as Lyra, not just as a warrior or a noble's daughter.
She placed her hand over Jihoon's heart. It was a Velathi gesture, one Jihoon had seen in cultural databases, a formal declaration.
I have made my choice, Lyra announced to everyone in the plaza. I claim this right under Velathi law. No family, no commander, no one can deny me this.
Her golden eyes locked onto Jihoon's.
You're mine.
Not a question, not a request, a statement of absolute certainty. The crowd erupted in shocked whispers. The other Velathi present exchanged looks. Some seemed scandalized, others seemed curious, a few were smiling. Jihoon's heart pounded so hard he thought everyone could hear it.
His mind raced. This was real. This was happening. Lyra had just publicly claimed him as her chosen partner in front of dozens of witnesses.
Lyra, he whispered.
You do not have to answer now, she said softly, though her hand remained over his heart. But know that my words are binding. I have declared my intent. If you accept, we bond. If you refuse, I will honor that choice. But I will not take back my words.
Commander Takrin made a disgusted sound. This is madness.
This is my choice, Lyra said, turning to face him. And by Velathi law, it is final. Return to my father. Tell him I am exactly where I choose to be. He will not accept this. He does not have to accept it. He only has to acknowledge it.
Lyra's voice was hard as steel.
I am of age. I am a recognized warrior. My bonding choice is my own. If he wishes to dispute this, he can challenge me directly, but he will not send messengers to do it.
Takrin looked at her for a long moment. Then his gaze shifted to Jihoon.
You have courage, human. I will give you that. Perhaps foolish courage, but courage nonetheless. He turned to leave, then paused. If you hurt her, if you dishonor her in any way, I will find you. And your species' cleverness will not save you. Understood, Ji-hoon said. After Takrin left, the crowd slowly dispersed. People whispered and stared, but they gave Ji-hoon and Lyra space. Hyun approached carefully. "Brother, do you understand what just happened?" "I think so," Ji-hoon said. His voice sounded distant to his own ears. "She just claimed you, publicly, in front of witnesses. That's binding in Velathi culture." "I know. What are you going to do?" Ji-hoon looked at Lyra. She stood tall and proud, watching him with those golden eyes, waiting for his answer, giving him time to process everything. "I don't know yet," Ji-hoon admitted. "But I need to figure it out soon." Because Lyra had declared her choice. Now it was his turn to make his. Ji-hoon didn't sleep that night. He sat in his quarters, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in his mind. Lyra had claimed him, publicly, in front of dozens of witnesses from multiple species. According to Velathi custom, her declaration was binding. She had chosen him as her life partner. Now he had to decide if he would accept. The easy answer was no. They were too different. She was Velathi nobility, a champion warrior from one of the most powerful families in the Empire. He was a human engineer from Earth, barely 30 years old, with no special status or achievements. She would live for hundreds of years. He would be lucky to see 80. She was strong enough to fight multiple opponents at once. He struggled to open stuck jar lids. They came from different worlds, different cultures, different everything. The logical choice was to politely decline and remain friends, but Ji-hoon's heart kept arguing with his logic. He thought about how she laughed at his jokes, how she helped him repair engines without complaint, how she had followed him into danger during the rescue mission, how she looked at him like he was someone special, someone worth her time and attention. He thought about how she challenged him, pushed him to be braver than he thought he could be, how conversations with her never felt forced or awkward, how comfortable silence could be when they sat together watching the stars. "This is impossible," he muttered to himself. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. He opened it to find Hyun holding 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need this," Hyun said, handing him a cup. "Thanks." Ji-hoon let him in. They sat in silence for a moment, drinking coffee. "Everyone on the station is talking," Hyun finally said. "I bet they are. Some people think you're crazy to even consider it. Others think it's the most romantic thing they've ever seen." Hyun paused. "What do you think?" "I think I'm terrified." "Of her?" "Of making the wrong choice. Either choice." Ji-hoon set down his cup. "If I say yes, I'm committing to something huge, something permanent, with someone I've only known for a few months. What if I'm not good enough? What if her family never accepts me? What if we're making a mistake?" "Those are all valid concerns." "But if I say no?" Ji-hoon's voice trailed off. "If I say no, I lose something I might never find again, someone who sees me clearly and still chooses me, someone who makes me want to be better than I am." Hyun smiled slightly. "Sounds like you already know your answer." "Do I?" "Brother, I've known you for 3 years. I've never seen you like this about anyone. When she walks into a room, your whole face changes. When she's not around, you look for her. You're already bonded to her in your heart. You're just scared to admit it." Ji-hoon wanted to argue, but he couldn't, because Hyun was right. Over the next 2 days, other people on the station approached Ji-hoon with advice. Commander Wells pulled him aside during a shift change. "I can't tell you what to do," she said, "but I can tell you this. In my 20 years running this station, I've seen thousands of people from hundreds of species. I've seen all kinds of relationships, all kinds of partnerships. The ones that work aren't the ones that make logical sense. They're the ones where both people choose each other fully and completely, despite the difficulties." Keol, the friendly trader who had warned Ji-hoon about Velathi courtship, Found him in the cafeteria. My own bonding was to someone from a different species, Keel said. Everyone said it wouldn't work. We had different lifespans, different biological needs, different everything. But we made it work for 30 beautiful years before she passed. I wouldn't trade that time for anything. Not for a longer life, not for an easier path. Nothing. Even some of the Velathi on the station spoke to him. An older warrior named Tesh stopped him in a corridor. Lyra is from a prestigious family, Tesh said. But she is also her own person. She has chosen you because she sees something in you. Do not dishonor her choice by assuming you know better than she does what is good for her. That comment stayed with Ji-hoon. He had been so focused on whether he was good enough for Lyra that he hadn't considered that maybe she knew exactly what she wanted. Maybe he should trust her judgment. On the third day, Ji-hoon made his decision. He found Lyra in the training hall, practicing combat forms alone. She moved with perfect grace and power, her body a weapon honed by years of discipline. She stopped when she saw him. Ji-hoon, can we talk? Always. They walked together to the observation deck. Their place, the spot where they had shared so many conversations under the stars. I've been thinking about what you said, Ji-hoon began, about bonding, about choosing me. Lyra nodded but said nothing. She was giving him space to speak. I talked to a lot of people. Everyone had opinions. Some said I should accept. Others said I should refuse. Everyone had logical reasons for their advice. And what did your heart say? My heart is terrified, because accepting means changing my entire life. It means being bonded to someone who will outlive me by hundreds of years. It means dealing with her family's disapproval. It means facing criticism and judgment from people who think we're making a mistake. Lyra's expression remained calm, but Ji-hoon saw the tension in her shoulders. But, he continued, refusing means losing you. And I've realized something over these past few days. Life isn't about making the safe choice. It's about making the choice you can live with. He stepped closer to her. I can live with the difficulties of being bonded to you. The cultural differences, the lifespan issues, all of it. I can face those challenges. He met her golden eyes directly. What I can't live with is walking away from this. From you. From us. Lyra's breath caught. What are you saying? I'm saying yes. If you still want me, I'm yours. For a moment, Lyra just stared at him. Then she smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing Ji-hoon had ever seen. There are conditions, Ji-hoon said quickly. This has to be a partnership, equal partners. I know Velathi culture has hierarchies and status systems, but between us, we're equals. You respect my humanity, I respect your Velathi heritage. We face problems together. We make decisions together. Deal? Deal, Lyra said without hesitation. She moved closer, and Ji-hoon found himself holding his breath. The bonding ceremony is simple, she explained. We speak the words before witnesses. We exchange marks of commitment, and then it is done. Permanent. How permanent? Until death, Velathi bonds do not break. That's a long time. Not long enough. Lyra smiled. Not if I spend it with you. She placed her hand over his heart again, the formal gesture. Do you accept my claim? Do you choose to bond with me? Ji-hoon Kim of Earth? Ji-hoon placed his hand over her heart in return. I accept. I choose you, Lyra of House Tor. They stood together in the observation deck, hands over each other's hearts, while stars shone beyond the window. When do we do the ceremony? Ji-hoon asked. Whenever you are ready. Tomorrow? Lyra laughed. So eager now? If I'm doing this, I'm not waiting. I've never been good at patience. The bonding ceremony took place in the station's main plaza the next day. Word had spread quickly, and it seemed like every resident of Epsilon 7 wanted to witness it. Commander Wells officiated, reading the necessary legal declarations that would register the bond in both human and Velothi records. Lyra wore her formal warrior armor, polished until it gleamed. Ji-hoon wore his best uniform, the one he had packed 3 years ago and never thought he would need. They stood facing each other before the crowd. "Lyra of House Tor," Wells said, "do you claim this bond freely?" "I do," Lyra said clearly. "Ji-hoon Kim of Earth, do you accept this bond freely?" "I do," Ji-hoon said. His voice shook slightly, but he said the words firmly. "Then by the laws of the Galactic Council, the Velothi Empire, and the Earth Federation, I recognize this bond as legal and binding." Lyra produced a small blade from her armor. She made a shallow cut on her palm, then offered the blade to Ji-hoon. He cut his own palm, understanding the symbolism. Different blood, but willingly mixed. They pressed their palms together. Velothi bonding tradition said that sharing blood created a permanent connection between bonded pairs. "You're mine," Lyra said softly, echoing her public declaration from days before. "And you're mine," Ji-hoon replied. The crowd erupted in applause and cheers. Some species banged their feet or made clicking sounds of approval. The Velothi present gave formal salutes, acknowledging the bond even if some didn't approve. Hyun was crying. Commander Wells was smiling. Keol was cheering louder than anyone. After the ceremony, during the celebration that followed, Ji-hoon and Lyra stood together on the edge of the party. "No regrets?" Lyra asked. "None," Ji-hoon said. "You?" "I knew you were mine from the first day you fixed my ship," Lyra admitted. "You looked at me without fear, treated me like a person instead of a warrior to be afraid of or a noble to defer to. That's when I knew. You hid it well. I wanted to be sure you saw me the same way. As a person, not just an exotic alien. I've never thought of you as exotic. Well, maybe a little." Ji-hoon grinned. "But mostly I just think of you as Lyra, the woman who laughs at my terrible jokes and can lift 3 times her body weight and drinks that awful purple beverage from her homeworld." "It is not awful. Your taste is simply undeveloped." They laughed together, and Ji-hoon realized this was what he had chosen. Not just a bond or a ceremony, but a life of moments like this. Laughter and teasing and companionship with someone who chose him just as completely as he chose her. The future would have challenges. Her family would likely resist. Some people would judge them. They would have to navigate cultural differences and biological limitations. But standing there with Lyra, watching the diverse species of the galaxy celebrate their union, Ji-hoon knew they would face it all together. Because she was his, and he was hers, and sometimes that was enough to change the entire galaxy. Outside the window, stars continued their eternal dance through the void, and somewhere among them, humanity had proven once again that they belonged not through strength or longevity, but through the courage to reach beyond themselves and embrace the impossible. The end of one story, the beginning of another.